What's up, girls? I just read Outline by Rachel Cusk. It's a 250-page contemporary novel. I'm doing some research for my second novel that I'm writing, and I asked ChatGPT to give me a list of like contemporary novels that represent like the modern woman in literature well. So Outline was one of those, and it's very interesting. It was a little bit bleak. There's basically no plot. It almost felt kind of like an anthology because it's basically people like talking at the narrator, and she kind of just acts as this like sounding board, taking in like other people's life stories. And in every one of the other characters' life stories, like they're imposing their own perspective on what's happened to them so extremely, always kind of trying to make the other people in their stories seem like, villains, or like they're always framing their stories so that they're in the right. The narrator is in Athens for a writing retreat for 1 week, and so she encounters a guy she meets on the plane, and he kind of tells her his life story, and he's talking about he's been married 3 times, and he's talking about each one of his ex-wives, and in a smart, like highly educated way, he's trying to basically make a case to her about why his ex-wives were in the wrong about his marriage, and then he'll kind of offer like, I did this wrong, but like, can you blame me? But it was really interesting, each character kind of pleading their case. I couldn't help but notice a lot of gender differences. It seemed like each guy that she encountered was kind of not asking her about herself, imposing themselves like upon her. They were either interested in her romantically or interested in her like emotionally. Even though the narrator doesn't say much, she does seem vaguely judgmental of age in men and in other women. She had an interesting kind of I don't want to say like competitiveness with other women. Maybe the other women had like a natural kind of competitiveness with her, because it becomes like a more direct compare and contrast to like how they manage their lives, their relationships with their children, their relationships with their significant others. But in the end, I felt like the book seemed to have very accurate like moral psychology. Like I feel like I have encountered a lot of people in real life who explain themselves this way, or have these kind of stories they tell you, or view life through the lens that these characters do. But at the same time, it just felt a little bit bleak to me, and the book didn't seem to have that much like redeeming qualities. I feel like there's this like trend in contemporary literature where the writers don't want to resolve anything. They don't want to like a lot of contemporary literature likes to offer or point out like a problem that's going on, or create a paradox, and then they like to just kind of leave it unresolved. There's this big trend, I feel like, right now in literature that like nothing ever gets resolved, and it's like a little bit cliche or like cringe to try to kind of like moralize or impose like whatever your belief on how you would resolve things, whatever. But it just leaves me a little unsatisfied. It makes me feel like things are a little bit bleak, especially when I think like your perspective can matter so much, and how you view the world. And often in those same kinds of novels, the perspective of the characters tends to be like a little bit negative, and like problem oriented, because like in order to have a plot, in order to have any kind of conflict in a book, you need to have a problem. So everything is kind of skewed towards the negative. Everything is typically skewed towards like figuring something out. So if you don't resolve it, I just feel like I walk away from the experience of reading these books is like, I'm like aware of a problem maybe that exists. In this case, the problem would be like, how much can you really know other people? Or do we, skew like subjectively the way we see our own lives in our favor always? But there's no like solution for how to fix that. So I'm just kind of like aware of it and a little disillusioned. I think a lot of people think that books don't need to offer solutions for the problems they point out, and I actually agree with that. It's just that like the overarching trend is that now like books are always pointing out problems and not really offering solutions. So that kind of irks me a little bit as a writer. I will say that like I couldn't put the book down. I read the whole thing in like 2 days, and I was completely gripped, and it was a very, very high level storytelling. But yeah, anyway, check out Outline by Rachel Cusk. It's the first part of a 3-book trilogy, so I'll probably read the next 2 books and let you know what I think. Thanks.